Good day to you all and welcome to our service today. Thank you for taking the time to join me. My name is Theo Richter and I'm an elder of the Temple Society Australia. I begin today with an acknowledgement of country for the lands on which I'm making this recording. Yours may differ, but I offer the same acknowledgement to all First Nations people wherever they be. I acknowledge the Ngarak Willam clan of the Boon Wurrung people, part of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And in doing so, I also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Without doubt, autumn is slowly releasing its grip and we are fast tracking into winter. The trees are beginning to lose their mantle of fiery colour and are defiantly putting on a final display before they lose their leaves and retire for the long slumber of winter. Autumn is a time for the garden, clearing up and composting the debris of spring and summer. Out go the annuals, the flowers that brought so much joy only a few weeks ago, the spent tomato plants, the empty cucumber and bean runners, the withering zucchinis. The empty beds will be either resown with the winter crop or left fallow to rest until next spring. Sweeping up the fallen leaves, tidying up the paths and flower beds, filling, then turning the compost every few weeks, so that the plant life that gave such joy and plenty in the past months can be returned as fresh compost. The stored goodness of a long and rich spring and summer, adding nutrient to next season's soil. Autumn is also a season that I find contemplative and melancholy, a time for reflection and review. I enjoy the long, drawn-out foggy mornings before the sun eventually peeps out in a sepia-coloured haze. Crisp and clear air. Long walks along leaf-strewn tracks amongst trees slowly reducing to their skeletal selves. And I must say I took advantage of that thick carpet of leaves on a recent walk around our suburb, much to the embarrassment of my wife. Neville Street, near where I live, is lined by golden elms and Manchurian pears, in various stages of losing their leaves, and they are leaving a thick carpet of bright colours on the footpath, and more than ideal for kicking through like I did when I was a kid. And kick I did. It was so much fun, and a reminder of earlier, more carefree times in my life. Occasionally, we feel a burst of late summer heat, like a last-pitched effort by Mother Nature to keep the heat in the earth as a reminder of what summer was before the seeping cold of winter takes its place. Autumn is a time to take stock of ourselves and to think about what is happening in our lives, in our community, and in the world. It is a great time to reflect on those values that are important to us. It's a great time to decide on how we will cope with the challenges and changes that seem to come our way almost daily, and to which we need to react and make the right decision almost without thinking. Above all, autumn is a time for catching up on our thoughts, on our beliefs, on our mortal and spiritual selves. It's a time to pull up the detritus of the last year, throw it into the melting pot of our minds, and then wait until some good thoughts percolate through. Let's start our service with hymn number 2, A New Commandment, played and sung by Monika Strasser. The lyrics are contained in the video, so you can join in if you wish.
A new commandment commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you love one another as I have loved you. By this shall all men know you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. By this shall all men know you are my disciples, if you have love one for another.
Our text today is taken from Mark 4, verses 1 to 20, and is titled The Parable of the Sower. It reads thus: Once again an immense crowd gathered around him on the beach as he was teaching, so he got into a boat and sat down and talked from there. His usual method of teaching was to tell the people stories, and one of them went thus. Listen, a farmer decided to sow some grain. As he scattered it across the field, some of it fell on a path, and the birds came and picked it off the hard ground and ate it. Some of it fell on thin soil with underlying rock. It grew up quickly enough, but soon wilted beneath the hot sun and died because the roots had no nourishment in the shallow soil. Other seeds fell among thorns that shot up and crowded the young plants so that they produced no grain. But some of the seeds fell on good soil and yielded 30 times as much as he had planted. Some of it even 60 or 100 times as much. If you have ears, listen. Afterwards, when he was alone with the 12 and his other disciples, they asked him, "What does your story mean?" He replied, "You are permitted to know some truths about the kingdom of God that are hidden to those outside the kingdom. Though they see and hear, they will not understand or turn to God or be forgiven for their sins." But if you can't understand these simple stories, what will you do about all the others I'm going to tell you? The farmer I talked about is anyone who brings God's message to others, trying to plant good seed within their lives. The hard pathway where some of the seed fell represents the hard hearts of some who hear God's message but ignore it. Satan comes at once to make them forget it. The rocky soil represents those who hear the message with joy, but, like young plants in such soil, their roots don't go deep. And though at first they get along fine, as soon as persecution begins, they wilt. The thorny ground represents the hearts of people who listen to the good news and receive it, but all too quickly the attractions of the world and the delights of wealth and the search for success and the lure of nice things come in and crowd out God's message from their hearts, so that no crop is produced. But the good soil represents the hearts of those who truly accept God's message and produce a plentiful harvest, 30, 60, or even 100 times as much as was planted in their hearts. I truly love a text in the Bible that is relatively straightforward. If we look at the words of Jesus in our lesson, there can be no mistaking in our understanding of their meaning. In this busy, high-paced life that we lead, it is sometimes difficult to find the time or the energy to just sit back, relax, and think about where we're heading. Sometimes we simply need to slow down, break from our busy schedules, open our eyes, and look at the world around us. One of the best times for all of us to do this reassessment is, as I alluded before, when the world slows down, like right now in autumn. At this time, we can reflect and contemplate the pleasures in life and the issues in life that we all face. Our text today speaks of the sower and is in a very real sense, we are that farmer who sows the grain that will become the harvest. Very much the physical and spiritual well-being of our world depends on the soil that we as individuals provide. And it is in this lesson that we find a possible path towards a greater understanding. If we act callously, then we may find hard hearts who turn their backs on us, much as the seed on the pathway was eaten by the birds. If we act with oppression, we may grow spiritually stunted, much as the seed on rocky ground, which appeared to grow well, but wilted in the hot sun. If we treat life superficially, we may well grow to be attracted to the gaudiness of life, appearing to bloom, but then fading as life's pressure increases, much as the seed amongst the thorns was slowly choked. It is when we try to create a rich and varied life, full of the joy of living, the security of a home, the acceptance of the right of others' coexistence, and love. That's when we all grow and prosper, just as the seed which fell on the good earth did. When I look out, I see a group of people who are bound by a common thread. All of you are special people. You occupy a special place in the hearts of your parents. You are friends of this and other communities, and through this link, you are fellows of the greater bond that links us all under the hands of God's kingdom. The lesson today beseeched us to put into practice the work of Jesus on this earth. Jesus urged us to follow the lead of God in providing a fallow, rich soil within the structure of our daily lives, so that the seed which is God's kingdom may prosper and grow within us. Just as we nurture our own spiritual lives, so too, extending from this, will come the nurturing of the lives of others. What a day it would be when we learn to treat each other with the ease, humility, and lack of self-conscience that bodes God's kingdom. As we describe our path towards God's kingdom, perhaps there are times when each of us has been on each of these grounds. Our search is never a simple progression from point A to point B, but rather it is a series of little leaps and giant strides as we search for and find the essence of our relationship with God. The hard ground represents those times when we are in full pursuit of earthly riches, leaving the more subtle, gentler altruisms behind as we accumulate wealth and worldly possessions. It is during these times that we are farthest from our goal, simply because that goal is clouded and hidden behind the figurative sparkle of the mammon offered in its place. Spiritually, we are going nowhere. The stony ground represents those times when we oscillate between our search for true happiness and the wants of the world. We yearn to be happy, but are too drawn to our wealth to be able to let go. As Jesus said, when the hot winds of persecution blow, we lose interest and fall back on the tangible elements of our lives, those that we can touch and feel. Spiritually, we are going backwards. The thorny ground represents those periods in our lives when we are tested. Our resolve to be who we want to be is tried in the open court of life. Under the pressure of conflict and hardship, we buckle and bend, our resolve weakened by too many what ifs and if only I had knowns. Our ability to interact with those who live around us is overshadowed by this constant conflict, and we become spiritually stunted as we seek the clear view without ever thinking to climb the nearest tree. And what of the good soil? The soil that is needed to grow and to mature those pure thoughts that we sometimes have. Finding that state in our busy lives is not easy, and the experience seldom lasts long. But these times do occur, times when we are in balance with ourselves, the world around us, and all with whom we come in contact. The good soil is the times when we are open and receptive, the times when we clearly see the path before us, and more importantly, when we put into practice the learnings that we have gleaned from those other, more difficult times. The sun seems to shine stronger, the air is fresher, the colours around us are more vibrant. Music is more melodious, our feet dance, our minds sing with the joy and pleasure in life. This is when we are most effective. This is when we turn to God and we are thankful for who we are and what we have. This is when we begin to act and react like God's children, secure in the knowledge that we are in His care and have His blessings. As I said before, people's lives are cyclic. In most years, we would probably weather at least one or more of the states that we have just discussed. This means that we can't get complacent because ours is the journey and it lasts for our lifetime. To explain this better, the closest analogy I can think of is the stars in the sky. Have you ever sat outside on a clear night and just observed the stars? I know that their apparent movement is just a reaction to the light passing through the Earth's atmosphere, but have you watched as they pulse, the individual points either expanding away from or contracting towards their central core? Now let's think of the stars as people. The central core is our spirituality, and the multi-pointed beams are the influences on our life. Imagine that each point has an opposite counterbalancing point on the other side of the star. Thus, love is counterbalanced by hate. Serenity is counterbalanced by turmoil. Vision is counterbalanced by blindness. Humility is counterbalanced by aggression. And pleasure is counterbalanced by pain. In the ideal world, all points of our star would be equally long, forming a perfect halo around our central core, the state of perfect balance, of perfect happiness, of perfection itself. This is the kingdom that we so earnestly seek. There we are, all happy, well-balanced little stars, floating around in the heavens, minding our own business, when suddenly along comes a dirty great meteor and hits us smack in the nose. What happens? We react. Our pleasure point decreases. Our pain point increases. Our humility point decreases. Our aggression point increases. Our love point decreases. Our hate point increases. And slowly, the perfect halo is distorted. Most of us are elastic and we soon get over things. Perfection returns to a degree, and our halos equalize, once again bringing us into a semblance of equilibrium. But what if we allow the transgression to consume us? What if we let each negative action feed on the other negative actions? The sum of two negatives is a greater negative. Add more fuel to the fire, it gets larger. Think about this. Pain begets more pain. Aggression begets more aggression. Hate begets more hate. And the sum of these imbalances soon start to suck the very light out of our starshine. If we let that happen, what do we become? I imagine our former beatific spirits, those well-balanced little stars in the sky, become black holes, emotional and spiritual wasteland. Jesus understood that. He saw what we could become if left to ourselves, and he set out by following God's divine plan to liberate us from that plight. His life's example opened the floodgates that allowed us to be liberated from the detritus of human dejection and allowed us to move in the direction of open and honest communion with God. And with that simple little parable of the sower, he sought to provide a lesson, something for us to contemplate, to observe, to remind us what to look out for, and to illustrate what we can do better, both for ourselves and for our fellow man. It would be wonderful if we could all join in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Lead us when in temptation and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory are yours forever. Amen. Let's conclude our service with hymn number 91, Pebbles, again played and sung by Monika Strasser. As before, the lyrics are contained in the video, so you can join in if you so wish.
One little pebble and the circles begin. Circle in a circle, they go on without end. Ripples on the water move across the pond. The pebble disappears, but the circles move along. Circles on water from one little stone. The water is smooth if you leave it alone. Each pebble you toss makes a difference, you see. The ripples that circle can touch you and me. Pebbles of good, pebbles of bad, circles of happiness and circles of sad. No way to stop them once they begin. Stop and think a minute, then drop your pebble in. Circles on water from one little stone. The water is smooth if you leave it alone. Each pebble you toss makes a difference, you see. The ripples that circle can touch you and me.
My main message to you all today is that we have choices. We can hang on to our losses, or we can learn from them and move on. We can hang on to our pain, or we can learn from it and move on. We can hang on to our anger, or we can learn from it and move on. All it takes is a conscious choice made by ourselves and a little responsibility for having made that choice. To help us, and in this season of contemplation, here are a few phrases that maybe we can ponder. Seek the peaceful path. Meditate, placate, strive for equality and benefit. Accept that there are things you cannot change. Accept help when it's offered. Reach out to others. Try to understand another's pain. We only compound ill feeling by responding with ill feeling. Think before you respond. We don't know another's circumstances, so be mindful that all may not be as it seems. See the good in life. Look at the world with open eyes. See the trees and the forest. Give yourself over to contemplation. Empty your mind. Stop negative self-talk. Commune with your spiritual self. Be gracious, be thankful, be humble. Listen to your inner voice and be guided by it. And don't be afraid to apply your own values, and if they don't fit, look again. Don't stop searching for your own truth and be accepting if you are unable to deny a truth that is contrary to your ego. And as a final thought, see the world through hearts filled with gratitude. Be happy for the small things. Celebrate yours and others' successes. Be thankful for what you have. Thank you all for listening today. I hope that I've been able to convey some of my thoughts on the meaning of our text, and that, in some small way, those thoughts may coincide with yours. The musical reflection with which we end today's service is titled White Clouds and is played by Monica Haumann. Blessings to you all, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.